WISC TV now presents For the Record.
Catching up with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Dane County is next on For the Record. Thanks for joining us. I'm Neil Heinen. It's been well established for a long time. The influence of a caring adult can have a dramatic, positive impact on a young person's life, encouraging the good stuff and discouraging the bad stuff. And nobody does it better than Big Brothers, Big Sisters. This year marks the beginning of Big Brothers, Big Sisters' second half-century of service in Dane County. And there are plans in the works for major growth in the number of kids served and some exciting new partnerships in the year to come. And I'm pleased to welcome to For the Record Big Brothers, Big Sisters CEO Sandy Morales and a Big Madison police officer, Ercan Dzelil. And thank you both very much for joining me.
Thank you.
You know, I can't imagine there's anybody watching this show, Sandy, that hasn't heard of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, but they may not know specifically kind of how it works. And maybe you should start by just explaining that.
Right. So to start off with our mission, you know, our mission is really to pair up children in our community with caring adult mentors, and we professionally support them throughout the match, throughout the relationship. And really our goal is to change lives for the better forever, and really that reflects on both the child, the little, and the big as well, the dedicated volunteer that, you know, that's spending time providing guidance and support. The reality is that there's too many kids in our community that don't have that support and guidance, and at times are navigating life on their own. And one of the things that we've learned is that kids need adults in their lives. And if you think about, you know, myself and others in the community that have had, you know, aside from parents, but just, you know, coaches, if you play sports, or if you do any other type of activity where there's consistent adults in their lives, or uncles or grandparents that are, you know, the whole saying, it takes a village. Well, sometimes kids don't have a village, and that's where we come in, because we're really trying to provide that support system for the child, and they do work in partnership with the parent as well. You know, the parent is just as involved in making sure that these relationships last and are making an impact to a child's life.
You know, I mentioned it in the open, but I remember like 25 years ago, research done by someone who was mapping assets that influenced a young person. And this researcher found that just the simple contact between an adult and a young person can really influence how they view the world.
Yeah, and that research continues today. We know we're part of a national organization, so we're an affiliate of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, and they've really taken that on in terms of seeing the impact of mentoring, you know, nationwide with, you know, over 300 affiliates. I mean, this is something that we're doing locally, but the fact that this scales up nationally is tremendous. So along with our national organization and Mentor, which is another lead researching firm that does research on mentoring in general throughout the United States, have really proven that when we can provide a support system like a mentor, a dedicated mentor, and when they're matched for a year or two and beyond that, that is the difference that you can see when a child is making decisions, you know, in middle school or in high school. It can change their opinion of themselves between, am I going to actually go to college, or do I actually have a vision for myself in the future?
I want to talk about who some of these kids are, but Officer Dzelil, let's just have you talk a little bit about your entry into this. What got you involved?
So my wife's cousin is actually a social worker at Sun Prairie Middle School, Patrick Marsh, and I'd been thinking about doing it for quite a while, and she told me about Klee because his previous big brother had just he couldn't do it anymore.
So he was in Sun Prairie, a student there. Okay.
Yeah. So then I contacted Big Brothers Big Sisters. I went through the whole process, and then I got into the school Friends program, where I would go every Thursday during Klee's lunch hour, and we would do activities during the lunch hour and meet every Thursday.
So, but just to be clear, this happened separate from your profession, right? This wasn't police work. This was your own personal interest involved.
Absolutely.
And then that relationship is about to change as we talk about the new partnerships coming up. But talk about who these kids are. Are there any common threads? Are there any requirements for a young person to come to Big Brothers and Big Sisters and look for a Big?
Right. You know, our parents call us. You know, so with the community-based program, the parents are the parent or guardians are the ones that are calling us, and so they're the ones that get the sense of, you know, my child maybe not be performing as well in school. You know, they're not making good decisions. Of course, there are other, you know, social economic facts that might influence, you know, the kinds of the kind of environment that our kids live in or are surrounded with. So, you know, those kinds of things, you know, cause them to make maybe not the best choices. So parents or guardians are the first ones to call us that say, you know, my child just needs somebody in their lives.
But there's no like economic limits or socio-demographic limits on who can participate in Big Brothers Big Sisters?
We do have some you know, there are some targeted areas in the community where we do see more kids coming, and those are areas that you know, Dane County or the City of Madison has kind of categorized as you know, that may have higher needs, and so we do tend to, it correlates where that's where we're targeting, but it also is where the phone calls are coming from the parents. So so in our community-based program, there are certain pockets in the community where we see a greater representation of need from mentors, but there's also outlying areas. I mean, we see the need coming also from areas like Stoughton, Oregon. You know, we have some inquiries from Marshall, which I believe is still Dane County.
Sure.
And so we do, I mean, it is in some of the focus areas, but again, as people move and, you know, they set up somewhere else.
The whole county is changing in so many ways and growing.
Right, right.
Every community is growing in Dane County.
Yeah.
Before we go to the break, Sandy, how many kids can you serve, and what's the demand?
Right. So this year we're set up to serve about 625 children. So that has been the number we've kind of served for a really long time. And you know, it takes, even though we serve 600 kids, you know, we have to go out and recruit the different volunteers, the mentors, interview, enroll, match, provide training, and provide ongoing support and training as well. So to do that, we have the capacity right now to serve about 625 children.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about your growth plans for the year ahead and Bigs in Blue, and we're going to do that when we come back right after this. I am back with the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Dane County, Sandy Morales, and Ercan Dzelil, who is a Big and is also a Madison police officer, as his attire might suggest, which leads to the Bigs in Blue program. So both of you, tell me about Bigs in Blue.
We're so excited about Bigs in Blue. Bigs in Blue is actually a national initiative that Big Brothers Big Sisters of America and the rest of the other affiliates are looking to implement in different communities. This conversation for us started about 2 years ago when we saw another affiliate that was doing it in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And you know, given the last couple of years with all the activity surrounding police enforcement, and you know, recently in our community with the Tony Robinson, there's been incident. You know, there's been a lot of discussion of the relationships between police officers and youth. And so from a national perspective and even from a local perspective, we said, like, what can we do? We knew that we had a few police officers that were enrolled in our program, you know, kind of like Ercan, that as citizens that were volunteering in the schools or in their community-based program, and we said to ourselves, how can we develop that even further? There's obviously a benefit to having a police officer that is mentoring a child, the child can see the police officer as a human being as well, as a person, but at the same time can also build a great relationship with somebody that, you know, is keeping, whose responsibility is to keep our community safe. And so we decided to start a conversation with the Madison Police Department, and at that time, Kristen Roman, you know, was kind of leading the outreach effort.
She was captain at the Madison Police Department.
Yeah, she was a captain, and
now chief of the UW Madison Police.
Yes, and And so we started a conversation with her and her team about, how can we recruit more bigs through the police department. And so we were able to come in and speak to the recruits, the new recruits for the last couple years, and really talk about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And that, and then along with just an internal effort to spread the word about Big Brothers, Big Sisters and becoming a big. So that has really helped a lot in recruiting more bigs from the police department. And then when meeting with Chief Koval, one of the things that he said is all the core officers who are the officers that are more involved in the community, he said he wanted all of them to become bigs. So because of him, we now have the core officers that are already involved in the community now actually mentoring kids as well.
Easy for him to say. Now, Officer Dzelil, it feels like there's a lot of layers to this. On the one hand, so many police officers, as Sandy said, are involved with young people a lot as part of their work. And it's a pretty intense job. So one, finding the time to add bigness to the work that you already do. And then two, just how that the personal and the professional kind of work together. Okay. And now I can envision officers asking you, what does it feel like? How does it work? Can I do this?
Well, first of all, yeah, you can definitely do it. Obviously, as police officers, we work odd hours, odd days. So nights, weekends, holidays, we work. So it's hard to find that professional, family, and big brother time, but it's possible. I mean, in the community, Clee and I maybe hang out once, twice a month. So it's really not that big of a commitment, but it does make a difference. And to your second point, there are definitely layers to it. Growing up, personally, I didn't like police officers. I viewed them as mean robots.
A little scary.
I couldn't connect with them on any level. It didn't seem. And so when I started to explore the profession, I slowly realized, hey, he or she's just like me. They have family, they have hobbies. So both professionally and personally, I try to show that I'm a human being. I have interests, I have family. I like to do things that they like to do. And I just try to instill that with every contact and every day professionally, and then every time I hang out with my little.
Do you have kids of your own?
Not yet.
Okay. And that's always an interesting kind of question, I think. Is it for people who don't have kids, or do people who have kids too also can be bigs as well? Yeah,
that's a great question. The average age of our big is actually about 37. So it's people, actually, it's a diverse group. There's folks that are retired, and research shows that those that are retired or no longer in the workforce actually make some of the best bigs, right? Because they've been through life, they have a great experience, and they're rooted in their communities. And so, so those that are retired make great bigs, but as well as families. So professionals or people who are working in the community and have kids, it's a great way to involve the whole family. So we have big families as well. It's a great way for kids to be exposed to volunteering, to mentoring, and really just bridging communities that maybe don't always come together. So we see big families as a great resource for our kids as well. Big couples, and so maybe they're couples that are not ready to have kids or partners that want to mentor a child together. It's also great for them.
I wasn't aware of that. That's interesting. You have a separate big couples component to it.
Yeah. So if, just to kind of offset the time spent, so if one adult can't spend time with a child, then the other adult can, or together as well. And of course, our individuals, which is how we started the organization. And some of them are in college, so our School Friends program works really well for those that are either have set schedules, like students, in college or even professionals that, say I have this hour either during lunchtime or after work, or I can leave work an hour early to go spend time at the school and mentor a child.
Just because we have you here, officer, can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Clee? What are the kinds of things that you do, and what have you seen as a result of it?
So when I first started hanging out with Clee, there's definitely been a transition. So at first he had some struggles opening up to me at first, but then once I opened up about my personal life and explained to him how similar things in our personal lives were, I think that really opened our relationship up. Some things he likes to do and I like to do, he loves basketball. Yep. So we always play basketball.
That's nice.
Yep. Yeah. Recently we just bought some pumpkins and we carved pumpkins. So it kind of depends on the time of year. So if now that it's getting colder, we'll have to find indoor things to do. But during the summer and spring, we definitely like to do things outdoors.
We need to take the last break, but when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the benefits to a young person, both for Clee and for the kids you see in Big Brothers Big Sisters, right after this. On For the Record, we are talking about Big Brothers Big Sisters of Dane County, which last year celebrated its 50th anniversary, and this year is looking ahead to some interesting growth plans in the year to come. Sandy Morales is the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and she is my guest, along with Officer Ercan Dzelil, who is a Madison police officer and a Big. So I will cut to the break a little bit there, Officer, before just things that you might have seen in Clee, that either things that he's not doing that may be a result of your relationship, or things that he was doing that maybe neither one of you expected that he would do.
You know, it's the little things that I've realized. Yeah. So the first couple weeks, we were playing basketball in the gym, and there was a kid who lost his basketball and Clee threw it to the other side of the gym. So then I was like, come on, man.
A little bit of attitude there?
A little bit. So I go get the ball, give it to the kid. And maybe 3 weeks after that, same thing happened. He grabbed the ball and gave it to him. So it's just little things like that that I've noticed that I hope it's my interactions and my examples that I set so that he can pick up the little things and implement them from day to day.
So put that in the context of the big picture, Sandy.
Yeah, you know, that's a great segue in terms of how do we know our mentoring programs are being successful. You know, one of the ways that we measure the effects of mentoring is through our youth outcome survey. So all our littles that are 9 years and older, we actually do a survey every year. We ask them direct questions in terms of, you know, how do you feel about school? How do you feel about your relationships? And how do you feel about, you know, risky behavior? You know, what kind of activities are you doing? What kind of decisions are you making? And so we try to survey all of our littles to get the feedback from them. And so we see the trends year after year in terms of how that individual child, you know, how their answers have changed. So at one time they might say, I don't feel good about school. I don't think I'm going to do great. And now that changes to, I actually think I'm going to graduate from high school. I think I actually want to go to college. So those are the things that we measure, and it's coming directly from our littles in terms of how do they feel their mentoring or their mentor is making an impact to their lives. You know, the other thing that we measure along the way is the strength of relationship. So again, asking the little and the big in terms of how is your relationship going? Yeah. And so the more positive answers we get, that means that this is working. Their relationship is working, and the support that we're providing by the constant communication, checking in, helping along the way and assisting along the way, those types of answers through the survey or the strength of relationship gives us a good indication that mentoring is working. You know, the other thing that we do measure is how many of our littles actually graduate from our program, which is also when they graduate from high school. Last year we had, well, not last year, we're still in 2017, but we had 23 high school littles that graduated from high school and our program. They had been matched in our program for an average of 7.5 years. So we know that the longer our matches stay together and can get through the middle school and high school humps, we know that they're more likely to graduate mentored. And we know that if they graduate mentored, their relationship will continue beyond our efforts, and then there's a greater chance that that little might come back and become a big themselves.
Is Clee on track?
He's getting there.
Yep.
He's getting there.
Always a little touch and go. I know,
Yeah.
I've heard it from many bigs before. You know, you never know, but if you can just see the momentum there.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about growth plans and how people can help. I know CUNA Mutual made a generous gift that's going to help, right?
Right. Yes.
So what are your goals?
Right. So again, we serve about 625 kids, and we know that there's a need for more mentors. We know that there are kids that need mentors in their lives. Right now, we usually hover about 250 to 300 kids that are waiting, where their parents are inquiring, and where we need to have an opportunity to go and interview them and move them to a position where they're ready to be matched. And so we have that number there, and that's only based through referrals of parents talking to each other. So when parents have success with our program, or when their kids have success with our program, we know the word is spreading, and that is how we get the calls from parents saying, you know, I want a mentor for my child. So right now, that wait pool of kids, we want to be able to address that, and we want to be able to support more kids and have that want that mentor in their lives. So for the next 4 or 5 years, we want to be able to increase our capacity. The big scary goal, or the big goal, is to get to 1,000 kids by 2021. And we know that year after year, we will have to increase our resources in terms of recruiting. We'd love to have a dedicated recruiter on staff to be able to help us with the volunteers.
And then in the last 25 seconds, anyone can just call and say, I'm interested.
Yes.
I'd like to participate, either for my child or I'd like to volunteer.
Right, yes. So you can definitely call our office. The number is 608-661-5437, or go online on our website, bbbsmadison.org. You get more information. But yeah, we'd love to have you.
Sandy, thank you very much.
Thank
Officer,
you.
thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap up For the Record right after this. Thanks for joining us on For the Record. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.